Welcome to part 2 of my video looking at the old railway that ran from Stafford right across to Wellington in Shropshire. In part 1 we looked at the route from Stafford to just outside Newport, where the old track bed was still laying and was a footpath, proper footpath, the Staffordshire Greenway. I'm now in Newport in Shropshire. I'm about 2 miles away from where I finished the last video. On this video we're going to look more for evidence of the railway line, because here in Shropshire it's not quite so clear. There's no official footpath which they had in Staffordshire, so here we're going to have to look for evidence of the old railway line. Where I'm standing is another walkway which is called the Hutchinson Way, which runs from the east side of Telford and Wrekin, which is up here in Newport, and then round the south part of the town to Wellington. It doesn't though follow the course of the railway. In fact, the point that I was standing at is the only point that it actually follows the railway. Look east. This is the course of the old railway line, and you can see an old telegraph pole which is still standing on the right hand side. So this is where the track bed was. On the path you can see a couple of old sleepers that have been used to cover a damp part, I think. And I've just moved up the path a short way and I'm just looking east again, and you can see a big factory in the distance, and that is one of the obstacles to ever rebuilding this line. As I said on the first video, lots of talk about the possibility of reopening this corridor from Shrewsbury to Stafford, but where that factory is a big industrial estate. To the left of that is a housing estate, both of which would make it very, very problematic for reopening this line. I've come to a map which shows the route of the Hutchinson Way, should you wish to walk it. Up here in Newport, which is where we are now, where it crosses the old railway line, and then it comes south and works its way down through Muxton, Donington Wood, Priorslee, and round through Telford Town Centre, then through its way through Newdale, and a little bit of a south dip, and up into Wellington itself. The old railway line used to go up here to where I am standing now, which is there. So this is the only point where it actually crosses the line. We're on Station Road here. Very little evidence there was ever a station here, and this is basically what's left. There is also Station Close, which I'm going to go and have a look at. Here we can see Station Court, and this new housing development is basically where the railway station once proudly stood. Well, I'm on a small public footpath in the part of Newport called Church Aston. I found an old railway bridge which I wasn't expecting to see, which is actually still in quite good condition. The interesting thing about this bridge, it's not marked on the Ordnance Survey map. Now, it's very unusual for a bridge not to be on an Ordnance Survey map, but this one is not there. So a great find on my investigational walk. I turn to face the west. There's the top of the bridge, and the track bed followed that line of corn. Just to the left is that corn, between the corn and the trees. Now, according to the map, the track bed here which goes west is a public footpath, but I can see little evidence of a footpath down there, but we will go and have a look. Now, I've just come slightly to the west of the bridge, and through that depths of undergrowth you can just see the bridge in the background, and that's all that's left of the old railway bridge in this swampy area. Of course, is where the track was and into where this corn was. So a great discovery. A bridge that's not actually on the map. Real evidence of railways from the past. Well, if you ever wanted an obstacle in the path of rebuilding a railway, here it is. This part of the road and the roundabout lies exactly on the path of the old railway line. If I pan round, you can see where the railway line went, through that gate in the distance. We're not going to be able to get any closer to it, as you can tell from the barbed wire, because it certainly isn't a public footpath. This bit seems to have almost been cultivated like someone's back garden. And you can see a stub there of a telegraph pole. In the distance I can see another fence, So this is probably someone's private piece of land. I've come about half a mile from that last location, the last remaining railway viaduct between Newport and Telford. It's really pleasing to see that the bridge is in really fantastic condition, as you can see from this side. It's the same story on the northern side of the bridge, where we can see that it's really well preserved. It's really pleasing also that this one bridge was saved, otherwise we'd have no railway viaducts at all on this section of the line. I can see that on the west side, as soon as you cross the bridge the level drops, so clearly there's land that's been moved on that side, because you can see a sharp drop as soon as the bridge finishes on the west side. That's one of the reasons you probably can't get up there. Right in front of me is the edge of the bridge, and if I pan to the right you can see there's quite a sharp drop into this field, so quite a lot of land has been removed. So we've come another couple of miles now west of that last location. We're about halfway now between Newport and the edge of Telford, and I'm looking east towards Newport, and you can see there a bridge in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to focus in, and here you can see a 3-span bridge that's just absolutely in the middle of the field. Of course the line ran down here, and as I pan backwards to the right of those tractor trails was the line up to the bridge that I'm standing on now. So this green land here was the double-bedded track. If we look the other way towards Telford, and you can see the Wrekin in the background, and the line ran from where I'm pointing now to those buildings just underneath. You can see underneath the Wrekin, and between there and now there is absolutely no evidence of a railway line whatsoever, just these green fields up to those houses in the distance. It's where those houses are though is our next location. Well, we've arrived in Telford now, and we're about where those buildings were that we saw at the last location. The railway entered Telford here, and now we've got a garden centre. The other side of the garden centre is Station Road, where the station obviously used to be, but there's no evidence of that now because of new housing. On the other side of Station Road is the Ministry of Defence Ordnance Depot. We won't be going filming there for obvious reasons. We now move west a couple of miles past the last location, and it's nice to see we've got the track back here at Telford International Freight Railway Depot. This route was used for freight past the date of closure on the 7th of September 1964. And the line was completely closed east of Donington in 1966, that's east of here. Now the colliery was served from here until 1979, going westwards until it finally closed on that day. It's now been built as an international freight terminal. We're about 1.5 miles from the end of the line, and we're looking east towards the International Freight Depot around the corner. This is the line looking west. I've just been informed by some local lads that trains come down here every morning about 8 o'clock down to the International Freight Depot. It's interesting that it's a single line here, just a mile before it gets back onto the main Wolverhampton and Shrewsbury line. It started as a single line in Stafford and finishes a single line, and yet it ran as a double line. Interesting. This is now the track looking west towards Wellington, and you can see the Wrekin in the background, and we're about 1 mile away from where it now joins the Shrewsbury to Wolverhampton line, which is where we're heading next. We can now see the track rejoining the main Shrewsbury to Wolverhampton line. Just as in Stafford, the line starts as a branch to the left. The double line is the railway going to Wolverhampton. Well, here we are at Wellington station, back in the world of Network Rail. Now in its heyday, steam trains used to run 6 times a day, both from here to Stafford and Stafford back to here, until its closure in 1964. Now the 18-mile track took a leisurely hour and 10 minutes, stopping at all the stations of course. A fantastic journey though through that Shropshire and Staffordshire countryside. It's not quite the end of the story though, because the trains, although they went from Stafford to Wellington, they actually ran from Stafford to Shrewsbury and Shrewsbury to Stafford. So our final destination is going to be Shrewsbury, and I'm going to catch a train to Shrewsbury, which is about 10 miles down the track that way. Here I am at the end of my journey. So what of the future? Well, I've already mentioned that there have been proposals to possibly reopen this line again. The last ones were last year, in April. Unfortunately, the day they chose to put it on local radio and in the local newspaper was April the 1st. This just caused people to phone in and ask if it was an April Fool's joke. That, I'm afraid, just about sums it up.